You are listening to the Showbiz Side Hustle podcast, powered by PerformerPreneur. I am your host here, Nicole Louise Geddes, and together we'll be delving into all of the ways that a showbiz side hustle can support you now and long into the future. So sit back, relax, and listen in, and together let's get inspired to take action to create the life, future, and business of your dreams. This episode has been sponsored by Bunny the Divine, the international award-winning burlesque performer and travelling showgirl with a unique take on life, the arts, self-confidence and empowerment. Follow her glamorous journey through her YouTube channel, The Travelling Show Bunny Girl, and celebrate the femininity, artistry and fierce power within us all. We're here with you today on the Showbiz Side Hustle podcast to talk to you about luck and belief. The two things go hand in hand, and we have the alchemist of Learn to Be Lucky, my lovely friend Andy, who is an expert in this topic and a past performer, PerformerPreneur, and he is going to be telling us all about what we need to think, what we need to do, how we need to orchestrate, how we need to learn to be lucky. And Andy, I'm so grateful and excited for you to be here. We have met periodically through the past 4 or 5 years since the pandemic, since PerformerPreneur started. I've been following your journey, and I know that you are one lucky fella. Obviously, you're here with us today, but in general, in life. And so I'm very excited to hear your story. I'm very excited for you to share your tips with my listeners. Everyone listening here today, of course, they want to be lucky. Of course, they want to be more lucky. And I know that it comes down to belief. That's the topic of the month. So guys, if you've been listening to the past few podcasts, you'll know this month we're talking about belief. Andy's the perfect expert to bring into your world to tell you about his take on belief and how that belief can help you to become lucky. Is that a good intro? Does that work, Andy? Anything you want to add?
Awesome intro. My job here is done. Thank you ever so much.
We need the tips. We need the golden nugget. We go anywhere.
Where would you like to start? I mean, we could start with what lucky really is, I suppose, is probably a good place to start. You're right about belief. I remember reading in the dictionary, actually, lucky, I think it's the Collins, talks about it having or bringing good fortune. So that's great. And the word that I love in that is bringing, because it kind of implies that it's not all left to chance. There are things that we can do to bring in that good luck.
I love it.
So that's where I kind of started from. Yeah. So, and I love that because that means actually, so it's not a betting on the horses idea. It's actually in life. What can I do, you do, everyone do to bring more good luck into our lives? So should I tell a tiny bit about my background? Is that helpful?
Absolutely, because like I just said, you are a performer. Our listeners are, the majority will be performers, possibly pivoting, possibly curious about pivoting, possibly absolutely steadfast in performing. And you have that experience and that knowledge that we all, it's not an easy industry to be in. And if you can give everybody listening a little bit more luck, then they'll be grateful, I'm absolutely sure. Tell us about your journey.
So I always wanted to be a singer. It was a dream from a really young age. There was a slight flaw in the plan. I wasn't actually very good. So had to do a lot of work, particularly after my voice broke, had to do a lot of work to do that. I'm going to fast forward because there was a lot of things that I did, amateur dramatics, red coat, all of these other things. When I look back at all of those, they were all amazing, to be honest. And then I had what would be termed luck. I got spotted on a ITV national TV program, and that gave me my kind of big break really into musical theatre. And I couldn't believe, but I'll come back to that because I did believe deep down. I would say to everyone, I can't believe this has happened. Well, actually, in here, which we talk about that belief, I knew this was going to happen really. I didn't really know how, had no real comprehension of how. So I got spotted on that national TV programme and ended up in the UK tour of Joseph playing Pharaoh for a long time. I loved it. Finally, all those little boyhood dreams had come true, and there I was in front of thousands of people performing yes, it was in a figure-hugging white catsuit, and that was not in the original dream, but fine. I had the figure for it then. I couldn't do it now, but No, I don't think I'd quite squeeze into it anymore. It's a long time ago now. So I didn't know what I was doing in the luck arena. I didn't know. But what I realized through that journey and then my corporate journey, which took me from being administrator to a six-figure salary head of HR person, and then the course creation and all of the other stuff that I've done since, there are foundations that if you put them in place and anyone can do them, it's going to increase your good luck. And the third foundation is believing in the best, which is why we're talking about belief, because it's so critical, because it can supercharge anyone's success, but also stop you achieving what you want if the beliefs aren't in line with what you really want. Is that helpful?
That's really helpful. And how fantastic. I'm now intrigued what year you were in, Joseph. I know I'm going to go off piste here because I saw it so many times as a child. And which Joseph did you work with? We're going off piste,
So
but just
it was 1999 to 2000. So it was not well, there was one famous guy off Home and Away whose name escapes me. So I did it with a lot of Josephs. Richard was one of them who has unfortunately passed away. Graham Tudor, who went on to be in The Witches of Eastwick, and Tim Dreesen, who was in Bat Boy and Take That the Musical. There was loads of Joe. I'm trying to remember all their names.
no, it's good. I was just intrigued. But we'll get back onto the topic. So, the topic of belief and look. So, I have equally, as people who have followed my journey and watch my instas and take on my advice, read the book, etc., they'll know that I equally have had some fantastic opportunities, deemed possibly lucky. But like you're saying, I have had a very, very strong belief that I will make it happen, that I will do the things, that I'll take the actions. So I've believed in myself. And the version of belief we spoke about in the previous podcast is that belief in your ability, in yourself, in your tenacity to push through and to carry on. So I'm sure there's going to be some synergy there. And then people frame it as luck. Which is, it's a fantastic course that you're running, Learn to Be Lucky. But, it's not luck in that sense. Like you say, there's foundational tools that you have to master. So
Yes.
give me the gold. What are we needing to do? I mean, not straight in, but, let's go there because I'm
Yeah, no,
excited.
that's fine. So before we jump into belief, I do think if you want to achieve something, you have to know what it is. So you have to be very specific about what you want, because quite frankly, you can have all the belief in the world. Let's come to that. But if you're sort of not being clear about what you want to achieve, then you're not really directing the car in the right direction. So let's assume that people do know what they want, because I'm sure you've covered that already. But there is kind of a fundamental if you don't know, really. So you have to know what you want. I wanted to be a singer. I didn't really care what type of singer until I saw my first musical, and then, which makes me look really old now, because it was Petula Clark in The Sound of Music at the Apollo Victoria. I am that old. I know, yeah, exactly. But I was so blown away, and I knew then exactly what I wanted to do. It wasn't a pop singer, it wasn't in a band, it was musical theatre singer. So I got quite specific. So I think, okay, you know what you want. Then when we talk about belief, I think the first thing is to understand actually what do we believe? What are they? What are the good beliefs? The ones that I will say all the time that I'm lucky. So I think that happens because I self-fulfill that prophecy. I use it all the time. I've been saying it for donkey's years. Before the calls, before anything, oh, I'm so lucky. It's a belief actually, but it's my words replicate that belief. Everything I do replicates that belief. So what words are you saying is the first thing I would have a really careful look at what you're saying. And this is particularly helpful when you're looking at beliefs that you might not want.
Yeah.
So things like, I can't do that. Watch those words. So when you hear yourself saying something like that, I can't do that, I never do, or that's impossible, or
That negative
that
self-talk.
negative self-talk, or actually you're saying it out loud, both, that's the ones to watch, because that will be part of the belief. So find them first of all. And the question I always ask is, what stops me getting from what I want? So if I actually write it down, and I normally write it down 3 times, say what stops me getting what I want, because the journaling aspect of that starts to churn out some things that you probably didn't think about, and it starts to expose the beliefs that might hold you back. And candidly, we've all got them. You've got them. I've still got some. There'll be things that I'm doing with my course creation that have stumbled across a belief. Oh, that's holding me back. That's not working. I need to switch it up and change it. And I use the
Mhm.
same techniques myself. So write it down 3 times. Anyone can do that. It's really simple.
Yeah, we're on it. I'm going to do that. What are we all saying to ourselves? And there'll be a multitude of things, and everybody is different. And I'm
Yes.
guessing we don't have to, shout them from the rooftops. It's a private matter. And so just get really curious about those thoughts, about those things that you say, and, things that have been, I was going to say gifted, but it's hardly a gift, is it? But things that have been, planted on us from relatives or teachers or,
Yeah.
generational trauma, all of that stuff. So it could get quite deep, but you have to start somewhere. So start scratching the surface,
Mm.
like you say, and
And what,
have a little look at those.
and for me, what's really interesting, once you do start looking at that, what's stopping you getting what you want list, it normally falls into 2 or 3 themes. So you can kind of pull those things together, go, actually, that's the same as that. That's actually at its core the same as that. So once you've got those things, because you need to uncover the reality, it can't be just a list.
Mhm.
So the killer word to expose what it really is for you is the word because. So
Okay.
I can't do that because, and then what is the next thing that's said? Now, it'll be very personal. That's
Mhm.
likely to get closer to what you're actually believing. So,
Yeah.
um, so that's kind of the first bit. Really expose what the, what are the beliefs that actually, and watch yourself for a week. I think if you watch yourself for a week and really start to pay attention, we tend to wander through life on autopilot,
Yeah.
um, and it's quite rare to stop and go, "What did I just say?"
Oh God, yeah. I bet there's 1,000 things that we're all saying to ourselves that we're not even, aware of because, like you say, we're not pausing and acknowledging and thinking. So yeah, my head's whirring and thinking, what am I even thinking this week? I started running this week for crying out loud, and for years I've told myself I can't run. Well, I'm running. I'm not running very fast or very well, but I am running, and I'm in the gym, and I'm shouting to myself, I'm doing it. So it's just a completely different belief from this point on. I've made a conscious decision, like you say, to assess, reflect, and reframe.
Yep, that's exactly it. And a lot of these elements came through a few years ago now. I trained in NLP, which is neuro linguistic programming, and so I'm a
Mhm.
master practitioner in that. And I was fascinated by this. A lot of people do it because, complete a side story, I turned up for the master practitioner course, which was, I think, a week residential, so it was really intense. And we went round the room and everybody said why they were there, and there was coaches, there were therapists, there were psychologists, there was this. And it got to me and I said, well, I'm here for myself, because actually I was fascinated with how our brains operate and why certain things happen.
Yeah.
So all of these beliefs are formed from normally a very young age. You referenced it a moment ago. So it could be your upbringing, it could be relatives, it could be teachers. Quite often it's actually before 7. These
Mhm.
things or elements of them have been embedded through whatever, normally either self-protection, so people have, you've created a belief because it protects you,
Yeah.
or out of fear of something, or what you've been told, you've accepted it, you've taken it on as a belief, because a belief really is only something you've told yourself over and over again until it becomes true for you. And thinking of it like that is brilliant, because then you go, well, hang on a moment, just because I've told myself that over and over and over again for years, I might have another 40, 50 years on this planet. Maybe some of your listeners have a lot longer than that. Um, but I don't have to keep repeating that narrative. I don't have to keep repeating that story. That was a story that I was told that I've taken on board, but I don't have to keep taking it forward into the rest of my life. So that's why I'm saying it sounds a bit boring to listen to yourself for a week. But if we really did it, it's so insightful.
Mm-hmm.
And also listen to what you say to other people. So um, I heard at work actually the other day, one of my team was apologising every time she spoke. And so I spoke to her about that and said, so it's really interesting. You've got nothing to be sorry for. Nothing
Yeah.
to be sorry for.
So
So, but it's there's something in her belief. We didn't explore it totally, but there was definitely a belief that she holds that she's not worth the same as the other people speaking. There's something about that for her, and we did start to talk about it. I will speak to her more about it. But so the words that she was saying are exposing
yeah.
part of her beliefs. So whilst we're talking a lot about that, it's so important to nail them down, because how are you supposed to fix them if you don't really know what they are?
And I guess surrounding yourself with people who are saying things and doing things will encourage you to believe different. I mean, the premise of Performerpreneur is not for me to show off. It's for me to inspire and to share the positivity, to share the success, to share the tools. And so, you know, I invite everybody listening into my world. And my inbox is open. There's the Facebook group, you know, all of this stuff, the courses, the membership. But come on in and surround yourself, be that with me or a different group, different community. But find those people that are going to give you what you need in
Yeah,
terms of words and affirmations and belief and power and cheerleading and friendship, because that can make a huge difference, can't it?
totally. And for me, the belief bit is so critical, because I think our beliefs create our experience and kind of define who we are, really, or how we present to be. I don't think they're always true, and I don't think they're all who we are at a core, but they are largely what we present or tell ourselves is true. So if we're not getting what we want and we're not making the progress that we want, that's a really good place to have a look at.
Yeah.
So once you've exposed them, um, so NLP is quite a deep topic. I'm passionate about it. So there are lots of topics like timeline and perceptual positions and all of these things to really delve deep and fix them. But for the
Mm-hmm.
purposes of this call, um, I the first thing to do is, when you've got a belief in front of you, let's make one up, a negative belief. What would one of yours be? Just
Well, I've used the running one.
well,
I'm sure
yeah,
it'll creep back in. So I can't run. Like
okay,
told myself that for years. Can probably run a meter without feeling like I'm going to absolutely pass out. But the backstory of that is my son got invited to do the aquathon. So in Oman they do swimming and running, and he's 9. He was 8 at the time. He'd never really ran. He'd never really swam back in the UK. He was little, but he got invited to train, and so we said, well, let's run around the block and see whether you can hit this 1.5k. Like, we don't know. And he really couldn't, and neither could I. I said, I'll run with you. So I said to him, well, that's a bit difficult, isn't it? You don't have to do it. We can say that you're busy that day. And he was like, I can do it. I just need to practice. And with that, he ran every single day and got himself to 1.2K with ease, then ran a 2K little competition thing and smashed it. And I just thought, you know what? That's inspired me, because I nearly did what we're saying don't do. I was like,
yeah.
oh, it's difficult, don't worry. So I said to him the other day, like, you did it,
Yeah.
I can do it too. And so there I am on my treadmill.
No, I love it. I can do it. It's brilliant. Okay, so let's take I can't run as an example. So that was the belief. Then to start to shift it, you need to put a crack in the belief. So you just find to time it wasn't true. So ignore the fact you're running now. Your I can't run, I bet you ran as a little girl. So you can run. You just
Yes.
don't do it anymore. It's that simple. You've put a crack in your belief. Find a time when it hasn't been true, and that's your running example is a kind of a superficial example. But if you go a bit deeper than that, if you went to a point where it was something like, I can't do that because I'm too old.
Mm-hmm.
I can't change my job because I'm too old. I can't go for that part because I'm too old. So maybe the way to put a crack in that belief is find someone who was older than you that got a similar part or did change their job.
Yeah.
Challenge the truth of your belief. This won't transform it, but it will put a crack in. It's not, but how can it be belief? How can it be true if you've just proved it wrong?
Love that.
It's
I love that.
awesome.
You're absolutely right. No, and it's so simple because the reason you want to do these things that you're telling yourself can't do is most likely because you've seen someone else do it and it's inspired you, or you want to go there, you want to try it. So somebody else will be doing it. So it's actually quite simple because they're probably all intertwined.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So put a crack in it. It's a bit like you bake a cake. You have to crack the eggs. Otherwise, what's the point? The cake's going to be dreadful, isn't it? You're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to get to the yolks and the whites and the goodness. So that would be my biggest advice of this. First of all, find out what they are, but really do that work. Don't skim it because otherwise you're making it up. Really, you're not really doing yourself justice. You're not going to really change your beliefs because you haven't really nailed what they are.
Uh-huh.
And then when you have nailed them, and the way to that was a really good point. When you're looking down your list of stuff that stops you getting what you want, and the ones that make you emotional are probably the ones that are getting to the core of really what's stopping you. Now, that might be a happy emotion because you've realized it's something that you can do something about quite quickly, or it might be the complete opposite. And actually, it makes you quite miserable and upset. But if we're going to do deep work on ourselves, and we do want to experience greater fortune, in my language, luck, all of those things, we kind of have to do that. We have to do the work that goes, and some of that work might be painful. But the brilliant bit is, for me, and this is the way I term it to myself, even if the list upsets me, it's now on a list that I can do something about. That has to be positive, even though I might not like what it's saying. And you were right earlier. You don't show this to anyone. It's not. It's not for you to pin up on the notice board in your gym, or this is very personal work that you
Yeah.
do on yourself.
Well, and I say to my clients, every emotion is a clue. So
Yes, exactly.
every emotion is a clue. If it is giving you grief, if it is tapping a pain or a trouble or a thought or a worry, even like a happy thought or happy emotion, it's a clue. It's a clue to why does that make me happy, or why does that make me nervous? Why is that making me? So every emotion is a clue, and you're saying exactly the same thing. Like,
I am.
ignore these alarm bells that are pointing out that there's work to be done.
Yes, exactly. No, I like that. Every emotion's a clue. Yeah, when you're right, you're spot on, because they are kind of they're the unconscious mind guiding you towards what you need to do,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
or what you need to be aware of. Or our emotions are really, really strong, and the unconscious mind's language is emotion anyway. So it doesn't really understand the words; it understands the emotions. So that's also very helpful, because if you can tap into the emotional side of your belief and start to put a crack in it, your opportunity for changing it is massive.
And then you can start to, and a good friend of mine used this quote, speak to the desire, not the fear. And you can
Yes,
start to, unravel that and actually go, okay, now we're getting in and amongst the weeds, we're getting in amongst the emotions, and we can push through and we can go towards the desire rather than being stuck in the fear.
yeah,
Oh, I'm loving this episode. Like, guys, if you are loving this episode, then please do share all the love on our podcast channel and tell your friends as well. Andy is a superstar and he's got a course as well. We're going to get to that shortly. So I'm pretty sure people will be like me, will be itching to know more. There's such a huge topic though, isn't it? So where do you want to go next in terms of what's going to be the most useful for people to get to know you and the subject, but also anything tangible they can take away following that? You've given us plenty, Andy, to be honest. I think there's a lot to work on there.
no, there is a lot. So if I talk about the foundations of luck, so I'm a bit of all my life I need to know the stepping stones I need to take to get somewhere. So when I was unpicking my success and I realised how lucky I'd been, I kind of thought there's stepping stones. So once you've worked out what you want and you've got rid of some of the emotional baggage that goes with all of that stuff, then you've got the three foundations, and they're really simple. I'm a simple bloke. I like simple. I don't like complicated. So the first foundation is I call it your playground of luck, and it's basically your networks. Who can help you to get what you desire? Fine. But, and this is critical, the only way they really work is if they're authentic, mutually beneficial relationships. Because if they're not mutually beneficial, you're just trying to get something out of somebody else. So,
I think that's stupid, are they?
sorry, what was that? So I missed that.
Stupid. They're quite aware. It's quite obvious, and then, like you say, it's not going to work. But building relationships, it's top of my list as well. I think it's super important in all walks of life.
Yeah.
I love the way you framed that playground of luck, because it's childlike. We have to make
childlike.
We have to, work out who, what, why, and what we can bring to the party, to the table. Yeah, no, beautiful. I love that.
And the child is exactly childlike, because you watch kids that play, particularly really young ones. They're not interested in what they can get from somebody. Well, maybe they want the ball or the brick or whatever it is, but they learn from each other so much, and that's part of the life's journey. So your playground of luck is kind of foundation one. Foundation two gets a bit more spiritual and intuition-y. So it's called engaging your intuition. So my success has definitely come through listening to my inner knowing. Now you've got the negative self-talk, but underneath that louder voice, there's this kind of quieter, voice. If you can tap into it and ignore the noise and ignore the ego and ignore the negative self-talk that you can't do this and all that stuff, which is never going to go away totally. And if anyone finds out how to get rid of it totally, please let me know, because I have not managed to get rid of it totally. But I do think sometimes it's useful. I think sometimes it helps with warnings. But the real deep voice, if you really tap into that and listen to it, it's amazing. The amount of people, successful people, from Steve Jobs to Einstein to loads of people who accredit their success to intuition. If these people are attributing some of their success to that, then I think we'd all be stupid not to listen. It's my view. So I have listened, and what I realized very quickly was that the things I've done, and my NLP training helped me with this a lot, actually, to get the noisy voice out of the way and just go to the quiet voice. You learn to do that. You engage with it. It then strengthens it, and it's more likely to be heard. So the second foundation of luck is engaging your intuition. And then I've talked about the third one, which is believing in the best. So the collection of those three pillars, plus the sort of tools and techniques about emulating others' success and how you can do that and tap into their body language and all of that kind of stuff, is the Learn to Be Lucky course. In broad terms.
I want to take it today now. It's, as I said to you at the beginning before we hit record, it'll be interesting to hear, and then for me to reflect on what parts of that I have been using unknowingly. And, I'm listening and I'm thinking, well, absolutely. I often reflect. I'm very curious. I journal. I try and really understand my emotions around things. I do listen to that voice that tells me, just go for it, just do it. This podcast comes from this intuition that it will be okay. Like, just have a go. What's the worst that can happen? You're going to smash it. You're a good talker. Like, let's, those things. There's been periods. So it's interesting to hear the network. I am all about community, Andy. Yes. There is no competition. There's no need for competition.
Right.
We've been programmed in the performing industry to be competitive. There's not that many jobs and there's 1,000 people wanting them. But outside of that, and even within it, collaboration is key. But in my world, PerformerPreneur, we're collaborative. It's a community. People, what can we do to help each other? How can we all build together? So I've got that one ticked off. And then this, this final bit of this cracking through those, and I do it. And so it's interesting to know that I've been doing it without any actual insight or knowledge. So I'm just wondering, what could we all achieve if we really knew the tools? Like, that's just very like natural and surface level for me. So now I'm intrigued. Like, where can we go with Andy, of course? And let's tell everybody how they can get in touch with you, how they could work with you, because as I say, I'm here to collaborate. There's no my community and your community. We're all one big community, trying to succeed, trying to believe, trying to be lucky, and just pushing forward in a direction of our dreams. And if we can all help and support each other, then how amazing would everybody be? So we do have a link that's going to be dropped into all of the episode blurb, but just tell everyone that's listening in case they can't see their screens right now.
So there's a Facebook page which I've only recently set up, actually, thanks to your guidance, because I listened to you. So one of my limiting beliefs is marketing is not my strength. So I am working on that as we speak, because it's not true. Because if it was true, I wouldn't have sold any courses.
Well, this is it.
So it's not true. And actually, the original course did exceptionally well. This is now the expanded, because I was getting so much feedback that it didn't go deep enough in the original course because it was very short. So I have expanded. It's now a 6-week course. And it is 6 weeks on purpose, because if you don't actually do the exercises and embed the learning as you go, you can't really layer it. So so it needs to be. It's not a quick fix. I think you can quick fix certain elements. I think that's fine. But if you really want to transform, it does take work and it does take effort. And in summary, what I'm trying to do is share my journey and the stuff I've learned and trained in that's really powerful, to shortcut it for everyone else.
Well, I was going to say 6 weeks isn't a long time, is it?
Not
when
at
we've
all, is
all
it?
this time on the planet. 6 weeks. Like you say, I think the problem is people want a quick fix. They want to build a business or be lucky or bag the parts. And, the people that and this is talking to the audience listening, the people that you're watching and listening, or I'm introducing you to, go a bit deeper than that kind of Insta level of what they look like they're doing, because I can bet you bottom dollar they're hustling hard, to get to where they want to be. And if they've arrived, then there's still a very big element of work. So there's no quick fixes. I'm so sorry, everybody. And they will get you so far. But if you want the longevity of success and luck and business and career, then, like you're saying, a 6-week course will give you a hell of a lot more than a quick fix, and it will be there for life.
Yeah, exactly. And the on my Facebook page, Learn to Be Lucky, there is a free link if people want it, and it's about transforming beliefs and leading authentically. So it's a free guide. If anyone wants it, they can have it. If you want to join me on the course, of course, you're more than welcome. I do want to mention something else, actually, if you don't mind. Instant success, this myth of instant success. I'm going to take my version of appearing on the telly. Yes, I appeared on the telly. Yes, it led to a big musical. But I had done years of work. I didn't just rock up at ITV and go, I think I'll be a singer today. I had done a lot of work. I'd done awful gigs in awful pubs where I was changing in the toilet. Gigs that were literally 5 people there. I was booed off stage once, not quite booed, but I told a very inappropriate joke, which I thought was really funny. It didn't resonate with the audience at all. That was a long 45 minutes. Yeah, I didn't read the room at all. No, the problem was I'll tell you that story some other time. I did read the room, but the joke was highly inappropriate. So, but you live and learn, don't you? So, I put a lot of work in. I did make the effort. I learnt my craft so that when the opportunity hit, I was ready.
That's a great statement to end on. Although I can never stop myself from talking, but it's that learn your craft, and this is what the course will do in terms of look. But when we come back, let's bring it all the way around to that belief the word belief.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I'm listening to you there, the failures, the booze, the missed opportunities, it's that internal belief that pushes you to take the next step, regardless of what the consequence of the last one was.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we all need to remember, that there's no full stop in life, in the journey, in the experiences. It's a process. Take the steps and keep believing that what you have visualized, what you wanted, which we started with, is where you will end up if you take that next step, and you have to believe that it's possible. I think it's been a fantastic episode. I'm so excited to hear what everyone's got to say. We could obviously talk for a very long time. I'm going to invite you into the membership to come and to come and talk a little bit more about this, or maybe pick one specific task that we can really get to grips with and take action on together. I think that would be fabulous for the members. But Andy, you are lucky, and I feel very lucky and privileged to have you join me on the podcast today. Guys and girls, ladies and gents, everyone listening, thank you for joining me on this episode of the Showbiz Side Hustle podcast. Please do come and join the free Facebook group, download all of the bits and bobs in the blurb, and show some love over on the podcast app. Thank you, Andy.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Big love, everyone. Thank you. Okay, guys, that's it for today. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Thank you for joining me here on the Showbiz Side Hustle podcast. So until next time, please do take a little bit of action, that very first step, and make sure that you are doing something for you and your Showbiz Side Hustle this week to move you forward and get you heading quickly and swiftly and strategically towards success.